Hello and welcome to another edition of our brand and enterprise show, Kaleidoscope, on Channels Television. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Anne Nwawadu. On the program today, a chat with the Managing Director, Procter & Gamble, Nigeria, Mokutima Ajileye, reveals the organization's efforts at driving inclusion and the impact of its corporate social responsibility drive in Nigeria. Once again, welcome. Procter & Gamble is a multinational consumer goods corporation, but let's find out more about its history and its operations.
P&G is a fast-moving consumer goods company founded by two men who met by chance. William Procter and James Gamble emigrated separately from England and Ireland respectively to the United States of America. The two might never have met had they not married sisters Olivia and Elizabeth Norris, whose father convinced his new sons-in-law to become business partners. As a result, in 1837, the new enterprise was born, Procter & Gamble. P&G developed one of the first profit-sharing programs implemented in the country and were among the forerunners of the American industrial sector by investing in research laboratories. With the launch of Pampers in 1961, P&G undoubtedly became the inventor of disposable diapers. In 1992, Procter & Gamble commenced operations in Nigeria and started local production of Always sanitary pads and Vicks throat drops at its production facilities in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, in 1993. With a strong portfolio of 6 leading brands, Pampers, Ariel, Always, Oral-B, Gillette, and Safeguard, Procter & Gamble Company continues to raise consumer satisfaction and market standards around the world.
My conversation with the first female and first Nigerian in the history of the organization to ever lead right here in Nigeria, Mokutima Ajileye, began with a journey of Procter & Gamble in Nigeria for about 3 decades, and of course how it has pulled through the challenging climb to become one of the largest consumers packaged goods companies in the world.
We've been in Nigeria, like you said, for almost 3 decades, since 1992 when we started operations. And if I reflect on it, I think there are 3 key pillars that have kept us, like you said, leadership position. One is our people. So you'd always hear us talk about our people because that's the bedrock of everything that we do. Then the second is innovation. In P&G, we like to say innovation is our lifeblood. It's really what keeps us going as a company. And then the third are our citizenship programs. So if I want to just double click a bit on them, if I think about our people, over the past 3 decades, we've moved from having a, let me say, 60-40 split of expats locals to today. I'm very proud to say that we have 100% local employees in Nigeria. And then actually in terms of gender equality, we've achieved a 50-50 split at the managerial level. So it's something we are really proud of. We are committed to growing local talents. Then the second part that I mentioned, innovation, you would see it in our products. So if I want to talk about maybe our Ariel detergents, we always say it takes out your tough stains in one wash. Or we want to talk about our Always sanitary pad that offers 8-hour protection. So we invest in understanding the needs of the consumer, then we design our products to meet that need. Then the third part is really we need to be good citizens. We are living in and operating in a country, so we are always very conscious about giving back to our communities. So those have been the 3 pillars that has kept us for 3 decades now.
You recently launched your Always Keeping Girls in School program for the year 2021. I mean, Procter & Gamble has always done this over the years. What are you doing to ensure gender equality among people who work for you, and of course, how this reflects in society?
So as you can probably tell, this program is something that is very close to my heart as a woman. So the Always Keeping Girls in School program, we started it since 2009. We've run it all these years, and it has some core pillars. One is really education. And by the way, we educate both the girls and the boys. because at the end, puberty education, the classmates of the girls need to understand it. So there's no bullying and there's no, let me say, making the girls feel shy about something that's very natural. So we invest in educating both the girls and the boys. Then the second part is we invest in training materials for school counselors. So if the girls have questions, they can always go to the school counselors and have conversations with them. Then the third pillar is access. At the end of the day, after the education, the girls actually need to stay in school during their period days. So we always give 1 year's supply of sanitary pads for all the schools that we have the program with every year. Because we know for a fact that I think if I add it to about 2 months out of the entire year, some girls miss school because they don't have any form of sanitary protection. So it's a very daunting statistic that is really heartbreaking. So for us, trying to end period poverty by this Always Keeping Girls in School program is extremely important. This is because at the end, when we talk about diversity or gender equality in the world, it is not just a nice to have. It is actually a strategic imperative for organizations, for communities. Because when you educate a woman, you empower a woman, at the end the communities grow and thrive. It has been proven. So it's not just for something that is nice as a corporate social responsibility, but it is something that actually develops the communities in which we live and work and develops the organization. So now I'll move to the organization because you asked what are we doing. I think the first thing that I mentioned earlier is even at managerial levels, we've managed to achieve 50-50 gender equality. In P&G. But then we made a couple of declarations last year, and this is something that we are continuing to progress with. One is we have 6 months maternity leave now, because we realized that a lot of women start dropping out of the workforce, not necessarily P&G, but generally out of the workforce when they start raising a family, because they find it difficult to cope. So we made sure that we have an extended maternity leave. And then we also introduced an 8 weeks paternity leave for fathers, because at the end of the day, we believe in sharing the care. Because if the men also get involved, they would support the women as well. They would bond with their children. At the end, the community and society is better for it. So these are some of the interventions that we have made in trying to drive a more gender equal world.
Procter & Gamble has obviously been always at the forefront of gender equality from all you have said. Are you satisfied with the impact this program has been able to make so far?
I think the word satisfied, it's an interesting word because I think it's a journey and nobody would be satisfied until we actually have achieved gender equality in the world. So even though we are making strides in P&G and focusing on doing that, we would continue. So if I want to really specifically speak to the Always Keeping Girls in School project, beyond just giving the education like I talked about and the training and giving the sanitary protection, what we've also done in the recipient schools is to actually then intervene in terms of water provision, sanitation in the school, giving them sanitary receptacles to be able to dispose of the used products. So these are some of the interventions we've made. And then we also partner with UNESCO. So we invested about $1.5 million in partnership with UNESCO to reach 110,000 girls. And these ones are girls outside of school, to then help to build their vocational skills. Because there are girls in school and there are girls, unfortunately, not in school, but also still need to be empowered. Because at the end of the day, gender equality has to do with women empowerment, has to do with economic empowerment. So that's why we are committed to removing barriers, whether it's in terms of barriers, in terms of access to education or keeping them in school, or barriers to economic empowerment opportunities. One other thing that we are also doing, we started it last year, and we would continue going to next year, is we now also focused on women entrepreneurs, where we actually had what we call a mini MBA with 50 women, and then we would continue next year. And the intent here was really to raise the capability of female entrepreneurs so that they can then be able to pitch and be part of our global value chain. Because when we looked at the statistics, we had more male vendors and suppliers than women. And we realized that part of it is they're not even aware of the opportunities in the business or corporate world where they can play in. And they also do not have the capabilities in terms of how to pitch or how to access financing. So this is also an intervention that we made even with female entrepreneurs. So even though our main focus is always on girls, wherever we have an opportunity, we also intervene even with women. So for instance, the UNESCO partnership that I'd mentioned, we actually invested $1.5 million partnering with UNESCO to then train disadvantaged girls and women on basic education using ICT. And we're successful in reaching 110,000 of these girls and women.
COVID-19, as we know, has had ripple effects on the economy. It is still having that effect as we speak. Businesses across the world are being affected. I mean, the ease of doing business also in Nigeria is another issue on the front burner. How have you been able to pull through these challenges?
So the COVID-19 pandemic, I think it's the most unprecedented thing we have experienced as a people, as an organization as well. So if I want to think about some of the things that we have done, I think it was a time that we had to remind ourselves of our purpose. Because at the end of the day, it's not just manufacturing or selling brands, it's really to impact the communities in which we live. So this really gave us an opportunity to be a force for good, which is something we are always pride ourselves with as P&G. So what we did, one was to partner with the federal government and the 36 states in the country, including the FCT, in what we called Protect Our Heroes mission. And here we donated about 100 million naira of humanitarian packages to the affected people. Then the second thing that we did in partnership with our Safeguard brand, which is an antibacterial soap, was to then donate over 150 contactless hand washing stations deployed into high-risk areas like schools, hospitals, etc. And then the third part was even in the way we work. So we also had to protect our employees. You know, at the very beginning, I said one of the pillars of P&G is our people. So as much as we are committed to producing our products, making sure they're on the shelves for our consumers, we also need to protect our employees. So what we did was, of course, everybody has learned to work in a virtual world. So we made sure that our employees were equipped with support to be able to work from home, whether in terms of internet services, having ergonomic chairs. So, and we've been able to keep that going for over a year, where people really work from home, and we did not see any downside in our productivity. So I think at the end of the day, the pandemic came with its challenges, but we had to all innovate around it, and then gave us an opportunity to really impact the community that we live in. And then also during the COVID pandemic, we partnered with the Bank of Industry in what we call the P&G BOI SME Academy, because we also knew the SME were really hit by COVID, the small and medium scale enterprises. So what we did then was to run a virtual academy for them, and we reached 700 SMEs, and really again training them about businesses, how to cope in these trying times, how to access financing for their businesses, and we did this virtually, and it was very well received. So beyond the things that we did to keep the business running with our employees, beyond what we did in terms of humanitarian efforts to combat COVID, we also stepped in to help the SMEs, because they're also the core of the economy of Nigeria. So another thing that the COVID pandemic revealed is really vulnerabilities in supply chain. And for us, this really shows that Nigeria needs to become more intentional about trading with other African countries, because then the long lead times in terms of supply chain really increased because of all the backlog following the COVID pandemic. So backlog in terms of containers that are willing to come from other parts of the world into the continent. So with the Africa Free Trade Zone Agreement that is coming in, it's something that we need as a country and as manufacturers in Nigeria need to be at the forefront of it and make sure that we establish these trading partnerships across the continent. I think that's the very first thing that we have seen. Then the second part is about the cost of raw materials coming to Nigeria. As a manufacturer, this is something that would really help if there's some kind of intervention in terms of duty reduction on raw and packaging materials. Because at the end of the day, we are focused on localization in line with the policy thrust of the government to localize and then to backward integrate as much as is possible. But then there are some raw materials that it's just not available in the country or even in the continent, and still needs to be imported, and this is where the reduction in duties, especially for important raw materials for soap production. We are talking about COVID, and we all know the role that hand washing plays in preventing this pandemic. But we have always partnered with the government, actually. For instance, we seconded one of our supply chain experts to work with the government in the PEBEC committee, which is really the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council. So for 2 years, we had someone there to work with the government to say, how do we make supply chain, what are the challenges in the supply chain, and how do we make it easier for manufacturers to do business in Nigeria.
The conversation continues when we return in just a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Kaleidoscope on Channels Television. We now continue with the concluding part of our discussion with the Managing Director, Procter & Gamble Nigeria, Mokutima Ajileye. You have contributed manufacturing investment into various communities in Nigeria. What are those initiatives you've been able to carry out in terms of affecting people positively, impacting them and the communities?
I think when we talk about manufacturing, I always start about job creation because that's really the role that manufacturing plays in a country. So through our different manufacturing plants, we actually have managed to create over 4,000 jobs for Nigerians in this country, and then also developed small businesses that are linked to us in one way or the other, about 300 of them, directly or indirectly linked to P&G operations. Now, if I want to go into other community impact projects, I think I'll start with what we call Pampers Riga Cafe program. This was actually a response to a need in the communities where women did not take their kids out for immunization. And we all know that at the end of the day, in the country and tropics that we live in, immunization is extremely important in preventing death of, well, mortality of babies. So what we did then was to incentivize women to come out for immunization by saying, okay, we would donate, give you free Pampers to take back home and use for your babies. And so with this, we donated 3.5 million diapers, and we were able to actually impact the health outcomes of over 500,000 babies across the country. So this is a project that we are really proud of because it's really affecting health, which is a core focus in a developing economy like Nigeria. Then the second one is what we call the Children's Safe Drinking Water Project. So what we've done here is we have a packet that we have developed. What happens here is you go to rural communities that don't have access to clean drinking water. We actually put this in, and then it purifies the water in 30 minutes. With this, we've been able to actually supply 175 million liters of clean drinking waters in about 24 states in the country. So these are some of the interventions that we've done to make sure that our manufacturing presence in Nigeria is actually impacting the communities we live. Now, if I look at the environmental part, for instance, our plant in Ibadan, we have achieved zero waste to landfill status. So this is a way that we are protecting the environment. And then there's also a new project that we are exploring that we want to bring to Nigeria. It's called Forest for Good. This is something that we've already done in other markets in Africa, Middle East, and Asia, which is really to go plant trees as a way of really giving back to the environment, because we all want to help the world to achieve this net zero emission. So this is something that we are also exploring to bring into Nigeria, where we also plant forests. We call it Forest for Good.
Should I be popping a champagne right now for this question? Because you're the first female CEO of Procter & Gamble Nigeria ever. We should clap to that.
Yes, we should.
All right, so what would you be doing differently? What would you be bringing to the table? And what should people be looking forward to as the first female CEO?
I think it's a proud moment, not just for me as a person, but for Nigeria. Because I'm the first female, but actually I'm also the first Nigerian to actually lead Procter & Gamble Nigeria. So this is a testament to what P&G always says, that we believe in our people and we are committed to growing local talent. And it's finally come to life. So I've been in P&G now for over 14 years. So it's been quite a journey. It's really been a journey, honestly. And if I really now want to reflect on it, I think first one of the things that I would keep doing is to keep growing the talent pipeline of local talents, because at the end of the day, I'm the first, but I definitely do not want to be the last. So I need to make sure that the pipeline of local talents that will continue to lead the Nigeria business, they're being developed and given the opportunities to grow. I think that's the first one. The second part is I'm Nigerian, so at the end, I'm also committed to the country, which is why we're asking what would I do differently or bring to the table. I think I'll keep focusing on localization and backward integration of our manufacturing processes, and then also looking at how to make our products more accessible to everyday Nigerians, expanding access of our products that we produce, and then also bringing a lot of local insights into even the development of our products, the development of our communication. Because, by the way, I have background in marketing. So I started my career in marketing as a brand manager on our Ariel brand back in 2007. So for me, it's really at the end of the day that the insights, the unique insights as a Nigerian needs to be reflected in our advertising, in our communication, in our products, in the way we go to markets. Because Nigeria is a very unique country. At the end of the day, we talk about Africa. Africa is such a wide continent. At the end, every market has its uniqueness. And even in Nigeria, there are certain uniqueness even within the regions. And this also has to be reflected in the way we do business, in the way we design our go-to-markets. Now, again, we have to think about legacy. I think for me, it's also, I mentioned that I don't want to be the last Nigerian, but I also don't want to be the last female. So at the end of the day, it's about what do I need to do to remove this glass ceiling. People keep talking about breaking the glass ceiling. I was in a conference one day and someone cracked a joke and said, if you break the glass ceiling, you would come out to the top, but you'll have scratches all over and you'll be bleeding. So for me, it's not about breaking the glass ceiling because it means that, oh, there are still barriers and women need to break through. I think for me, it's about identifying the barriers that do not allow women to thrive and actually taking them away so that they can have free passage to the top versus having to break through it. Women really need to have a seat at the table. And like I had mentioned earlier, gender diversity is not a nice to have. It is a strategic imperative for organizations, for businesses, for countries, because it brings diversity of thoughts into the marketplace. We want to have a conversation. People are wired differently. So whether it is gender diversity or diversity in terms of mindsets, diversity in terms of backgrounds, they are all things that help to make the decisions much more robust. And we need to represent the consumers we serve. In Nigeria, we have 50-50 split male versus female. So also in the marketplace, in the companies, we need to achieve this balance because then you are representing really the society that we live and work in. So these are the things that are top of mind for me as I take on this role, to keep pushing Nigerian talent, to keep growing the Nigerian business, to make sure that Nigerian insights or local insights get into how we run businesses, and then, of course, to make sure that I'm not the last woman to lead P&G Nigeria. So my last word to girls is really like, the world is your oyster. At the end, there are no limits. The limitation most of the time is in the mind. And girls and women need to take it off and really say, there is nothing stopping me. We believe, and I believe, that every girl, every woman has the right to fulfill her potential to the uttermost. So nothing is holding the girls back. So girls, nothing is holding you back. It's really about telling yourself that you can do it, and then you go out there and break all the barriers and take away the glass ceiling for other women, and then keep moving forward.
So let's talk about your future now as a brand and, of course, your corporate social responsibility efforts to helping develop the society. Share with us what you will be doing going forward.
I think it's quite simple. We would keep doing the right thing for our consumers, the right thing for the country that we operate in, the right thing for the communities that we live and work in. So I'll start with the consumers. We are committed to bringing high quality, superior products to Nigeria, and we are not going to stop. So at the end of the day, we believe in adapting and tailoring to meet the needs, but that doesn't mean tampering with the efficacy or the superiority of the product. So this is something we are committed to, and we'll continue to do that. So innovation is the lifeblood of P&G, and we would keep bringing innovative products to meet the needs of Nigerian consumers. So, and then in addition to that, I'm really looking forward to the AFCTA coming into operation, because we really are looking forward to exporting. We want to establish Nigeria as a hub for West Africa and, of course, further out, all the way to East Africa or South Africa, wherever it makes sense. So for us, we are really looking forward to these trade agreements because at the end of the day, it's important that our manufacturing operations are able to serve consumers outside of Nigeria and serving the continent. Now, if I move over to our corporate social responsibility angle, P&G always prides itself in saying we are a force for good. We would continue to be a force for good. Whether it is brands like the Always sanitary pads stepping up to try to eradicate period poverty, or our Gillette brand stepping up to say we need to challenge the toxic definition of masculinity. So our brands will continue to be a voice to keep pushing this. And on top of the programs that we currently run today, that I mentioned the Always Keeping Girls in School program, the Children's Safe Drinking Water program, we're also looking at another program that we are introducing. So December 3rd was the International Day of People Living with Disabilities, and we announced a program that we call Limitless. And this is where we are actually looking at how do we help to whatever is needed to advocate for, to make it easier for people living with disabilities to get employed in the workforce, to have access to our products, and then even their caregivers. We are also focusing on what do we need to do, whether it's in terms of training or no. So we would announce this very soon, what we want to do for Nigeria, but as a company, we've already announced this Limitless program. So this is an angle that we've never actively played in Nigeria, and I'm very excited about bringing it here, bring it back home. And then another one that's really interesting is the partnership that we have with UN Women. And we have this summit that we call We See Equal. We started it last year, and we would continue it this year. And this is really the platform where we tackle issues and challenges around driving gender diversity in the world. So we would do the summit again this year, and we would make certain commitments as a company. Last year, we had committed to achieving 50-50 gender split at managerial levels, and we have done it. And that was also where we announced our 6-month maternity leave, announced our 8 weeks paternity leave. So this year as well, we would look at other things that we need to address to keep pushing towards a more gender equal world.
Well, as we draw the curtains on today's edition of Kaleidoscope, please remember businesses cannot be successful when the society around them fails. Well, this is where we end it on Kaleidoscope for this week. Thank you so much for watching. Keep up with our top stories and go to youtube.com/channelsweb. Click on playlist, then scroll, and you can watch past editions of Kaleidoscope. Thank you for watching. Stay safe. I'll see you soon. I'm Anne Nwawadu.